Welcome to Behind the Camera, a podcast for teens. I'm your host, Annie, a former licensed professional counselor turned senior in sports photographer.
And I'm your co-host, Anissa.
And we're here to talk about everything that impacts the teens in the RGB. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode about relationships.
Yay.
We're happy to be here. It's a super important topic that we've been wanting to talk about for a while because it's something super relevant to everybody. And I think you're going to get good info out of this episode. So it's me and Anissa for today.
Hello.
So we're going to be sharing some information with you. Anissa's going to share a story with you guys. And then we also had someone graciously share her own story of what she went through. So it's going to be a good episode, so stick around. So I want to start off with some stats. So I started doing research for this episode because I kind of wanted to see how many teens are impacted by relationships or like toxic relationships or unhealthy relationships versus healthy relationships. So I went onto the Department of Health and I was actually pretty surprised because not as many teens are getting into relationships anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of studies that have been done, and it was like almost half of teenagers are reporting that they're not even involved in any sort of like romantic relationship, and they're focusing more like on other things like
Yay.
school, yeah, sports, you know. And I was like, wow, that's so different. So over the past like 10, 15 years, it has been on the decline. And then also, it's also been on the decline that teens engaging in like more intimate behaviors too. So I guess that's not what I expected to read. But the other part of that is that the kids that are in relationships, a high number of those kids are reporting either emotional, physical, or sexual abuse in their relationship. So I think it's like 3 out of 10 reported that they were in some sort of like actual physical or violent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then it was like 6 out of 10 are reporting some sort of emotional abuse, whether it's like, just stalking, harassing, name calling, breakup trauma. Yeah. So for the kids that are in a relationship, half of those are experiencing something bad.
That's sad.
Yeah. And so then I kind of started going down the rabbit hole of like, okay, well, what makes some kids get into a healthy relationship and then others don't? Mm-hmm. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah. What's that one factor?
Yeah. Like, what's the thing that's putting these kids, because it also seems from what I read that once they go into an unhealthy relationship, they tend to go into another unhealthy relationship. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of turns into like a cycle.
So what was that one thing?
I don't know.
We're here to find out today.
I didn't get that far, but we're going to talk about it. So some of the things that, I would guess, just based on my experience as a counselor and based on my education and all that stuff, is that it starts when you're really little. So
in the home.
Yeah, it starts in the home with the parents. So if you have like a really bad childhood growing up, if you're being exposed to violence or you've been abused, or maybe you grew up like in poverty, struggling, things like that, where you just didn't feel safety and security growing up. Maybe you have some of those things that, and then so when you're developing, when your brain is developing and your personality and your perception of the world, then you kind of get into these relationships with other people, and maybe that's what you think a relationship should be like. Yeah. Is like the violence and the being disrespectful or fighting all the time. Another thing is that people aren't really being taught to cope with things as they grow up. Like as we're growing up, we're learning from our parents or people around us, like how to cope with anger, how to cope with jealousy, how to cope with rejection, but not everybody has that. You know what I mean?
I feel like nowadays everyone's parents are divorced.
Yeah,
so it's like
there's a big percentage of
yes,
that.
so you could have a good, healthy household in one side, like let's say your mom or your dad, and the opposite, it could be showing you something totally different. So it's like I could get where people get lost in like the mindset of how am I supposed to treat someone? Like, oh, like my mom's over there, like she's with the wealthy man, but he's not treating her right. But my dad's over here with like, you know, a woman, they have a good marriage. So it's like, what do I want? I feel like that confuses people a lot. Right?
Does it confuse you?
No. No, but I feel like it could be like.
Tell us about that, Anissa.
Right. I'm all, when I was 5. No, I just can't.
So you're saying like there's not a consistent idea.
Yes, there's not a consistent idea of relationships at home, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, not only that, like I think a lot of the kids too, because of social media, like they're being taught by social media, and a lot of these relationships or these role models that they might be looking at are not really genuine or like authentic in the sense of like that's not real life. So I just think it's just a different time now that kids are growing up in, and so relationships are a lot different now than they were like 25 years ago, you know. So yeah, going back to kind of like it starts at home, like parents guiding their children through a relationship, like first of all deciding and having a boundary with your kid, like what age you could even have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, because the younger that you get into a relationship, like let's say you start dating someone at 12 or 13, you're not emotionally ready to deal with, like let's say cheating or abuse or violence or anything like that. And so if you're 13 and your boyfriend's cheating on you, like how are you able to cope with that at that age? It's a big heavy thing to cope with, and then that kind of gets you started into this like perception about the opposite sex, or you know how you should be treated, and it just puts you in this path of like negative or like bad relationships.
Even with people.
So that was even
like
with people.
like friendships. The person that they cheated on you with could probably be a very popular person, and everyone starts to hate you. Bully you. Go back to our episode 1. Just kidding.
Yeah, that was episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3.
Visit episode 3 for bullying. Yeah, but so yeah, that was very interesting. So when you are in a bad relationship that young, there was this study in the UK, and they looked at 10,000 teens, and out of the 10,000 teens, the ones that had been in relationships earlier in their life, between I think it was like 12 and like 15, by the age of 17 they had deteriorating mental health. Yeah, so by the time they were hitting adulthood, they were already hitting adulthood in a bad mental state because of those early relationships that maybe they weren't ready to get into.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
you can only imagine what's not tested over here in the US when
it's
so much more. I feel like it's so much more toxic here because we let social media just run.
Yeah, there's like very little, not that there's very little, but like I think there's like less boundaries or like less oversight. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
Get some numbers.
So I actually do see a lot of like young kids in relationships, and then it gets serious really fast, and then they might not be ready for that. And so I thought that was just, interesting to read. So it was very like
eye-opening.
A lot of kids don't want to be in relationships, but the ones that are more susceptible to like violence.
I'm very surprised that not a lot of people are wanting to be in relationships, because I feel like in my head I'm like, oh, everyone, like in high school, everyone wanted that partner, but there are some people that are serious about like sports, school, getting to college.
Well, and also this was just one little study. It's just they based it on like so many kids, and so that's kind of what it's not like so
it's not that accurate, but it's accurate.
No, it's accurate. It's accurate. It's a journal article, but what I'm saying is, it's just a sample. Small sample. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. So you have a story to share with us.
Yes, I do.
You went through your own
Heartbreak.
very toxic,
Yes, narcissistic.
narcissistic. And when we say narcissistic, like, we're not using it lightly. Like,
No,
this person legit had like narcissistic characteristics,
Very much.
which I
very
knew,
controlling.
which I knew from the very beginning. As soon as I met this kid,
She's saying I told you so.
okay, we are mother daughter. In case you didn't know,
Daughter.
mother. Thanks, Anissa. So,
Had to clarify.
yeah, mommy. So, yeah. So from the minute I met this kid, I knew he was up to no good. Like, instantly off the bat. Call it mother's intuition, call it my gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. But I was right.
But I did have a gut feeling also. So
Okay, so
I just didn't listen to my gut.
Okay, so tell us about it. Like, walk us through the whole thing, because I think yours is relatable. I think yours is very relatable.
Because I was very young.
Mhm.
I was very young. I was very naive.
How old were you when you went to college?
I had just turned 18. I turned 18 in June, and I moved to San Antonio late August.
No, you went in July because you
Oh,
started
yes,
camp.
Yes, okay. Well, I was going up and down. I didn't officially move until August, but I was going to cheer camp for like 2 weeks
Yeah.
in July. So yeah, let's say I moved to San Antonio right when I turned 18. Very traumatic, very traumatic. It started on August 15th. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I started school in September. I was doing a bunch of cheer appearances. So we were very involved with the
Like
school.
events.
Yes, events. And I was a cheerleader, freshman, you know. I feel like everyone, as soon as we have events, everyone's going to know who you are and they're going to want to follow you on social media, yada, yada. So it's September. I get a bunch of followings on Instagram, right? And I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like, I'm not used to it, but I'm going through everything. Like, I was kind of just like looking, see who's following me. And then I started to get messages from this one guy. And I'm like, oh, like, it says that he was going to be in a sport, obviously, right? And I see it, whatever, I ignore it. I didn't want to be involved in a relationship just because I had just started college. I didn't want to be caught up in anything. So I'm going to lunch and I see this guy, the guy that had been messaging me. I see him outside of my dorm. He's staring at me and I'm like, oh, it's kind of weird, right? Creepy. Yeah, kind of creepy. Eventually, he messages me again, like, oh, is that you? And I'm like, yeah, that was me. Is that you? Like, what are you supposed to say to that? like, yeah, how did I look?
You should have said no.
Yeah, it was a ghost.
No. I don't know what you're talking about.
So he tried to make small talk, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, I'm like from the valley, yada yada, just small talk. He ends up asking me out on a date. At first, I didn't want to go. My gut telling me exactly what was going to go on.
Okay, but let's talk about your gut though. Like, no, let's talk about it, because like, what do you think your gut was trying to tell you in that moment? Because this is an important part of the show. Because, okay, when God created us, I believe that He created a gut instinct to keep us safe from danger and
Survival
sometimes
instincts.
Yes, and sometimes because we want what we want, we ignore it, and we end up in trouble.
I do think that this was, you know, the devil trying to distract me from the better good in my life.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly, like, looking back at it today, I think so, but everything happens the way it happened. Like, everything's meant to happen. And I feel like I did get good out of it, knowing what I know now and how I am now. I feel
No,
like
but
I
let's
got
go
it.
back to your gut though.
Okay. It's not a healthy gut, guys.
Like, no, what I'm saying is, like,
I know.
what was that gut feeling? Like, did you feel like you were in danger? Did you feel like you just had a bad feeling?
Yeah,
like
I just had a bad
Like, he
feeling.
wasn't a good person?
Like, he gave, excuse my language, he gave F-boy vibes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, he was just in it for
Yeah,
his own benefit.
He was in it to, like, say that he had a cheerleader girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Like, like, it just felt weird.
Yeah. Like, superficial.
Yeah, like very superficial, not like, oh, I want to get to know you. Like, it wasn't nothing like that. it didn't, at least to me, it didn't feel like that. So whenever he asked me on a date, I was kind of like, oh, like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then my friends ended up convincing me, like, just go. Like, you're not going to do anything else on a Friday night. So we go to the movies, very, you know, like you said, superficial, whatever. The movie's great. We end up hanging out. That was on a Friday. We ended up hanging out the next day, and it was kind of just like, oh, like, not super weird, but his friends were weird towards me, as if they knew something. Mm-hmm. Like, they looked at me like, oh, like, you're new. you don't look like the same guy.
You don't look like Jessica that was here last night.
So honestly, that was kind of like a weird thing, but I was like, oh, like, maybe they're just, you know, weird. Like, maybe they're the problem.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, so very bad start.
But I think it's funny that there's like so many red flags that we're talking about right now that you just ignored. But anyway,
yeah, no,
that's part of learning. That's part of learning. Yeah. Like, you have to make the mistakes.
Shoot me, guys.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, so I got looked at very weird. And honestly, after that little hangout, I was like, okay, like, maybe this guy isn't that bad. Like, let me just, you know, we'll be friends. If nothing ends up happening with us, like, we'll just be cool friends, whatever. He's in a sport, I'm a cheerleader, we'll be friends. Come to find out, during the week, I don't even want to, like, talk to this guy. That's just how I don't know how I could explain myself in that time. I just wanted to focus on school, which was very good of me at the time. So I would ignore him during the week. And then during the weekend, he would always be like, oh, like, let's hang out. And all he wanted to do was party. And I'm like, oh, no, like, that's not my thing right now. Like, I don't want to party. And he would go out and party with other girls. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, you're my boyfriend. Like, I don't want you to do nothing. I really didn't care about him in that instant. And then I started to be like, okay, like, we started hanging out more. It was kind of nice. People started putting things in my head saying like, oh no, Anissa, like, he's a good guy. Like, he's handsome. Like, just go for it. So I was just getting like gaslit into this relationship. I mean, I take full responsibility as well because it takes two. But after a while, I just ended up falling for him. We would hang out a lot. And when was it? I come down for Thanksgiving break. He's like I guess Thanksgiving and Christmas fall in the same time for college.
It was when Grandpa passed away that you came down for the funeral. And then he was like, oh, like, you were gone for a whole week. What was I supposed to do?
That was high school.
Sorry, guys. I'm getting the toxic guys mixed up.
Yeah, that was my high school relationship.
So her toxic relationship started in high school.
Yeah, and studies show
that one wasn't that serious, though.
Yeah, it wasn't that serious. And honestly, like, he doesn't even like that. Like, even bringing him up, that doesn't even bother me anymore. Like, I'm just like so moved. But like, I've gotten done worse, as you can tell, in college. So
yeah, okay, sorry.
But that shows that when you're in one toxic relationship, you just jump into another toxic relationship.
And that's so weird. Like, I don't know why that is. Because, like, you would think that, or you know what? Okay, I can speak for this.
What?
Because I was in a super unhealthy marriage for 14 years. And then I met my husband, which is, you know, completely opposite. Like, he is everything that a man should be. Like, he is a really good example for other, you know, men and, you know, young boys or whatever. But I was very uncomfortable in my new healthy relationship because I was so used to the toxicness. Mm-hmm. And I almost felt like I don't deserve this. Like, I don't deserve. Yeah. So I feel like it has to do with the self-esteem that you kind of gets, you know, worse and worse as you're going through like a bad relationship. And then eventually you just feel like unworthy.
Yeah. I feel like your standards stay where they are in that long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it was good or bad.
Right. And then when somebody good comes along, you just kind of, well, I know I can speak for myself, like, kind of self-sabotage that. And like, you know, I don't want to be in this healthy relationship because I'm not good enough, you know?
Yeah.
But that, anyways, that's my own.
Yeah. So
that's my own 2 cents.
But that just shows studies are studies.
Yeah. Like, it's true. Yeah.
Very true. So sadly, I mean, but hopefully I'm breaking the cycle.
Yeah. Gotta break that cycle.
I'm breaking the cycle.
Y'all have to break the cycle.
Yes.
Use us as examples.
Yes. You don't want to end up like.
Hey, Hey, but we ended up in good places.
Yes, we're in good places right now.
We're in a good place.
Which is why we're able to talk about it now.
Yeah.
We're able to voice what has gone on.
We've learned a lot.
Yes.
Okay, but anyways, continue.
So I come down for break, college, it's same thing. We're down for a month. I'm still going up and down because we were preparing for Daytona. So I was doing cheer practice over there in San Antonio. And this guy was kind of just like being weird. Like one second he'd be like, oh my gosh, I miss you. Like I wish you were here with me. Like I want to go country dancing with you. Like he knew that was like my little gateway because I love country dancing. So he was just trying to like get me there. And I was like, no, like I'm down here with my family. Like I haven't seen them in forever. Like I'm homesick. And his family was there from San Antonio. So it's like, dude, you're able to drive 20 minutes to go see your parents. Like let me be with my family. Like I need my family. And it was just kind of very territorial. Like he wanted me with him.
Like controlling.
Very controlling. Like I feel like he didn't trust me here. Because he had a little guilty conscience.
Well, because he knew what he was,
Yes, he thought I was doing what he was doing. And at the time, I'm just like, oh, like, this guy's very controlling. Like, weird. But come to find out later on, I see the bigger picture. Anyways, so I end up going back up in January. We end up breaking up for some odd reason. I want to say he broke up with me because... Or we broke up... I don't know. I feel like it was a mutual thing. On his side, he wanted to focus on sports, which is a really big red flag. I don't like that. I don't like when guys use their sports as a issue, if that makes sense. Because it's like you wanted to be real big boy and jump into this relationship, but when the time comes down to it and you're getting all this other attention, other things you want to say like, oh, it's my sports. Sorry, I don't have time. And I just don't like that a lot. And so that was his excuse. Mine was just like, oh, like I just felt weird. I didn't like it, but I still had feelings for this guy. Like I still really liked him. I started to get kind of attached. Like I felt like, what? Like, it's kind of weird, but okay, whatever. So we were broken up, but we would still talk. We would still see each other, hang out, whatever. And after that, we're kind of just like on and off. One weekend, we're like cool. The next weekend, we're fighting. The following, we're cool. Like it was just very toxic, not okay. And COVID happens March, which is spring break of 2020. And I come down to the valley. We're broken up at this point. I come down to the valley and I'm getting like blown up. Like I'm back at home with my family. Like I'm trying to spend time with them, like make the best out of the situation.
In quarantine.
Yes, in quarantine. Like we're having our best time, like drinking margaritas.
Oh my God.
But not everyone's quarantine was like that. So
yeah.
He was blowing up my phone. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. And he's like crying on the phone. Like, I'm so sorry, Anissa. Like, I love you so much. And I'm like, that's kind of like, what?
Like, you're like, what happened?
Yeah, no, like literally what happened. I thought he was just apologizing for like just having me linger around. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I could see why you're apologizing. Like, you know what? Like, thank you for apologizing. No, that wasn't why he was apologizing. I never realized it until the following year. But around that time, we're going to come back to that part of why he was crying. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I end up taking him back. I'm like, oh, like, he is sorry. Like, okay, cool. Like, thanks for taking accountability. Like, good job. I moved back up to San Antonio.
After COVID. I mean, not after COVID, but the quarantine was over.
No, it was still quarantine because I quarantined in my apartment alone.
Oh.
I moved to San Antonio in the middle of quarantine.
That's right.
I got my stimulus check, so I was like, ooh, I have money. Like, let me get an apartment. I got an apartment. I started working in San Antonio at a restaurant, so we were still open. And I kind of just like found my place being there, and he was there, so I was like, oh, it's very like it's convenient, whatever. I'm gonna be able to see him, not knowing that it wasn't okay. And at this point, my mom didn't like him because we were already on and off. So I hate to say it.
I didn't like him from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay. And I know I had no reason to not like him except my gut. Like, there was just something about this kid. Like, I don't know.
You would have to meet him.
It's his soulless eyes.
Yeah, it is his soulless eyes. Ugh, I don't know why. Anyways. So during that time, I'm kind of lying to my mom about what I'm doing because, hello, like, she had already lectured me so many times. Like, I don't know, Anissa. Like, I just don't like him. Like, there's just something about him. Like, oh, like I love him. I'm gonna marry him. Yada yada. So
you just don't know.
Yeah, you don't get it.
You don't know anything.
I've gone through marriages. You know more than me.
And by the way, I do want to say that if your parent or someone that you trust, your friend or someone that you trust is telling you that there's something wrong, it's probably because there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Like you should, I'm not saying like
break up with him.
Yeah, but you should definitely think about it.
Reevaluate.
Why is my loved one, why is my mom, why is my sister or my friend saying these things? Mm-hmm. What could possibly be like going on? I'm
very stubborn though. I'm a very stubborn person. I have to learn everything for myself.
It's so annoying.
So if you're like me,
it's so
we
annoying.
Don't blame you. I don't blame you back. I'm on your side.
Anyways, go on.
Yeah, okay. So I'm over here lying to my mom about who I'm hanging out with, whatever. I'm hanging out with him. So every time we would get into arguments or he would hurt me, I would just be there in my apartment alone crying. Like, and it felt very lonely. It felt very isolated. I felt very isolated. Like I felt like I had no one, which in reality I did. I just chose not to be upfront with my family about what was going on. So that was on me.
Because you knew we were gonna tell you what you didn't want to hear.
Yes, they were gonna tell me break up with him, and I would have been like, no, you're wrong.
Oh my God.
So I kind of just like, I chose that on my own. I chose that for myself and I didn't like it. But anyways, we end up breaking up. Let me think about it. We end up breaking up. I find out that he's messing around with some girl from UTSA. And she would talk a lot of crap about me. And I'm like, why does this girl hate me? Like, that's kind of weird. Like, I never met her. But yeah, she would talk a lot of crap about me because obviously she was messing around with this boy. You know, figures.
And then I can almost guarantee he was telling her so much crap about you.
He was for sure like calling me crazy. Like, oh no, she's the one that wants like, for sure.
We're broken up. Oh, we're having problems. Like she can't get over me.
So I had to deal with that so many times. Like so many different girls. It wasn't even just that one girl. There was so many different girls just hating me just because we were together but not together. So I don't know what he was telling them, but
that's like a huge red flag though.
Yeah, it is.
Like if you go to a public place with your boyfriend and the girls are looking at you a certain way, there's something up.
Yeah, we honestly stopped eating at like our little rec center within like 2 months of our relationship. Like it's kind of weird. Maybe he's just busy. Like I'm just gonna go eat by myself.
No, it's because all the girls were there.
Yeah, no, literally all his other side pieces were there, but I didn't realize that till now. But anyways, okay. So that around that time during quarantine, that girl didn't like me from UTSA, talking a lot of crap about me. And I was at home alone in my apartment, and I was getting this message from this one girl going back to the time of our first date where his roommates were looking at me funny. Turns out that he was talking to a whole other girl for like 3 weeks. And her and I lived in the same dorm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so whenever he would come up to my dorm,
so you were like the side piece and you didn't even know it.
I was her, like in their relationship.
You were the other woman.
I was the other woman, and I didn't even realize it until after she finally told me. She's like, hey, so like I know it's not your fault, like you're a very nice girl, and we're like super close friends. Like I still talk to her here and there. But she's like, I know it's not your fault. Like, it's him. He's a POS. Like, don't blame yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So there I am like, oh my gosh, girl, I'm so sorry. Because that's not the type of person I am. I don't ever want to be that person. If it does happen, it's very unintentional. Like, I don't like that feeling. I wouldn't want that to be done to me, so I don't do it to other people. So that was already a big, like, a red flag as well, that how it started off that way. And I'm like, what? And at that time when I found out, him and I weren't talking, so I couldn't be very confrontational. I couldn't be like, bro, like, what the heck? I couldn't be like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of just like lived with it for a couple days, and her and I ended up becoming friends. So that was already the second instance. The girl that hated me from UTSA, and then that girl, which is my homegirl now. And we ended up kind of taking a longer break. And then we started hanging out again, and I believe we started arguing because he went to some party and he was sitting on a couch with some girl, and when it came back to me, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're over here saying that you want to be with me and you want to work it out, yet you're over there hanging out with some girl on the couch just you two. You can't say like, oh, all of us were on the couch. Like, no, like it was just you two. Who knows what y'all were talking about? Who knows what y'all were doing? So we end up fighting that night, and I call one of my good friends, and I'm like, hey, like this is going on. Like I can't anymore. Kind of just venting because she was very close to me at that time. So she calls me and she's like, hey, Anissa, like I'm gonna be straight up with you. And I'm like, what's up? She's like, your best friend my best friend during quarantine, or my whole freshman year, he cheated on you with your best friend, right? And I'm like, huh? Like what? And at this point, whenever I'm crying, I'm in front of my roommates, and my roommates were also my friends at the time. So I'm like, I look at them like, did y'all just hear that? And they kind of like went pale, like they look like they saw a ghost. And I'm like, is this true? And they're like, I go to the restroom, throwing up, crying.
And
like,
mind you, your best friend is still acting like she's your best friend, right?
oh no, okay, so the one that he cheated on me with, no, so it was her guilty conscience. As soon as that whole thing happened between them two, she just like stopped talking to me. She would talk crap about me. It was kind of just her knowing that she couldn't be friends with me. Like she did it more for herself, knowing that it was her guilty conscience. So at that point, her and I weren't friends, and I never really realized why. I was like, oh, like maybe we just like fell off.
Yeah, that was so weird.
It was like one day to the next.
You all went from being super extremely like close, like being like big and little, and like all that stuff.
We would hang out every single day.
To like you're her enemy.
Yeah.
And that was really weird.
It was really weird to me, but at the same time, I don't know, like I hate to say it, but like girls are weird.
Yeah.
Like
you're just like whatever and moved on.
Yeah, like maybe she didn't like the way,
but it made sense.
I moved
later when you found out.
No, whenever I found out, it made a lot of sense. I was like, oh, that's why you don't want to hang out with me. It's not because like of me, it's because of what you did. So I end up crying, right? And my friend that was on the phone with me that told me the truth, I'm like, thanks. And she knew, everyone in this situation knew the night after it happened, because the girl, my friend, she was on the same cheer team as me, and she goes to practice and basically just tells everyone like, hey guys,
like brags about it.
Yeah, like I did this with Anissa's boyfriend last night. And there I am, just sipping my energy drink.
That is so like embarrassing. And
and I kind of, I don't know. She envied me a lot. Given this girl, I got a concussion from her. She was my base. I feel like she dropped me on purpose.
She probably did.
I feel like she dropped me on purpose. So during this time, I was in the trainer, like, you know, getting tested, doing all that. So before every practice, I was always like in the trainers, just, you know, getting wrapped. I was always hurt. So that's whenever she told everyone. And it's crazy because that happened during quarantine. So spring break of 2020. And I didn't find out till beginning of 2021. I didn't find out. So I call her up and she answers, and I'm like, I start cussing her out. Very, very toxic of me, but she deserved to hear what I had to say.
Very ghetto.
Yes, very ghetto. I did go very ghetto on her. I did go ghetto on her, but oh my gosh, I feel like it needed to be said. And that's not how I am, guys. I am not like that, so I'm not scary, I promise.
Hey, but these guys will push you to the freaking ledge, man. Like,
yeah, I was already upset from him being with some other girl at a party, and then this just kind of like set me over the edge.
This was like really huge though.
Oh
like,
yeah, this
like your best friend. Like, oh my god, there's like billions of women on this earth, and you're gonna go with my best friend.
You could have gone to a different college,
and the best friend too. Like, it's just that's like horrible.
But she was like that. She would, you know, get with every guy on every sport. She would get with the football guy, with the basketball guy, with the swimming guy, tennis, like every sport, you name it. Like, she's gone through it, which is very sad on her part. But I mean, I figured out, it's like, oh, it was only a matter of time that she reached the point that she reached. Excuse me. Okay. So it was just very hurtful on my, like, the way I felt, like I just felt very lost, and within the next week, like I couldn't feel back to normal. Like,
Well, and
there
it's,
was
I
no
think
going back.
it's like the betrayal of like everybody knowing, and like for a whole year they probably looked at you like you
Yes.
were like this dumb.
Yes,
I think that's the worst part though,
Yeah.
because like,
everyone knew, and I didn't know
Yeah.
why they looked at me so funny.
and because a guy is a guy, like a
Yeah.
guy, you can move on. Like, okay, you know, I'm just gonna move on from you, but it's all the other relationships that are you also lose along with it because of
and my roommates.
and your roommates too.
I would cook dinner for him and he would come to my apartment. We'd eat dinner, and they would just be like, "Hey,"
and they knew this whole time.
and they knew this whole time.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is very. It hurt me because again, I felt so alone. Like, not only did my friends betray me, my ex-boyfriend betrayed me. Like, I just felt like I had no one besides the one friend that had told me, you know, what had actually gone on. And I thank her for that. In that moment, the day that after it happened and she found out, we weren't like super close to where she could pull me inside and say like, "Hey, like this is what's going on," because I'm gonna be like, "No, you're crazy. Like, we're not friends."
Yeah.
And we were like cool, but we weren't like as cool as we were in the moment that she told me. So, in case y'all have questions about that. So I end up going off on her. She blocks me. She knows she's in the wrong. I'm like, okay, she got it. Like, whatever. That's her. That's who she is. She's gonna live with that for the rest of her life, knowing that she did that, and people know that she did that. And I move on to him, and I'm like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, why am I just finding out this now? And he's over here gaslighting me, like, no, it didn't happen. I'm like, dude, like, I just went off on her and she admitted it. Like, don't sit there and say it didn't happen. Like, don't gaslight me. And he's like, well, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. Like, what? It cancels out. It cancels out, guys.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so he tried to backtrack on that. And honestly, at this point, I didn't even care about him and the girl on the couch. I didn't care about any of that. I was like, dude, F you, excuse my language, F you, like, no.
I wonder if the girl on the couch is listening to this podcast.
Right. She's like, oh my gosh, that was
That
me,
was
guys.
me.
I'm a star.
Whatever. We
Yeah.
have like 5 listeners.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So I end up going off on him, and I'm like, dude, what the heck? He gaslights me, and then he finally admits it, whatever. I don't talk to him for maybe like 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. I go no contact. And he finally hits me up, and he's like, Anissa, I'm sorry, like, yada, yada. And it already felt so weird because we had been together from the point that he did that to the point that I found out. So I was like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, I feel so weird. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I was with him after the fact, so it's like, you know what? He apologized, he admitted it, whatever. So in my little silly little mind, I was like, well, let's work it out.
Dude. Okay. So let's now I'm talking to 23-year-old Anissa.
Yes.
What would you tell 19-year-old Anissa about that situation now? Like,
Oh, I'd probably strangle her.
yeah, like
I wouldn't even say words. I just like
there's no talking.
Yeah.
You would just kill her.
just kill her off.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Because okay, and this is what I'm talking about. Like when you get into a relationship and you're like in too deep, like you're irrational.
Yeah.
Like you're irrational because like when you're out of the relationship and you look back, you're like, oh, how did I even put up with
Ew,
that?
yeah.
Like how did I not cut it off at that moment?
Yeah.
But somehow you just convince yourself that like,
Oh yeah. We
I
had
hate
already
that.
gone through so much where I was like, you know what, like
and you would have thought that would have been it. That would have been like
should have been.
the
It should have-
straw that
yeah.
broke the camel's back.
it should have been it. I had to learn for myself. And honestly, I always say this to everyone though, like when everyone knows that like they're aware in the toxic relationship, and I always tell them like you have to leave for yourself. Like you have to want to leave. Because when people are telling you like, oh, leave, you're like, no. Especially if you're stubborn like me. Like I'm just gonna fight back. So I always give that advice to people, like you have to want to leave. Like envision what you want for yourself. Now that I'm out of this relationship and I was out of that situation, like in that moment where I finally said, you know what, no more, and like I finally blocked him on everything and like went no contact, I had to envision myself in a happy, healthy relationship. And I was looking at our relationship and I was like, ew, like gross. I had to get so disgusted of him, which was so sad. Because like I liked this guy at one point. Like I honestly wanted to marry him at one point. And it's like I look at him now and I'm like, ew. Like, Poochie, nasty.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's because also like as women or like as a female, you have that like nurturing kind of like
you want to see the good in everyone.
Yes, and you don't want to give up on a person because what if they change or like what if I can change them?
And that a lot of girls, I feel so bad because that this was my mindset. I didn't want to change him for someone else. I didn't want him to be happy with someone else. And that's what made me hold on to him for so long. And I feel for so many girls when they say that too. Like, I don't want him to treat someone else better. I don't want him to like move on and change. But it's like at a certain point, what's meant for you is meant for you. What isn't, it isn't. And I had to realize that because I felt like that for the longest time. Like, no, like, I don't, like, even though he treats me like crap, like, what if he treats someone else like crap? Like, I want him to treat me like crap.
That makes no sense, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. And like, looking back at it now, it doesn't. But in that moment, I'm like, no, like, this guy's mine.
It like even sounds like irrational.
Oh, yes, very much.
And no, but that's how that's how it is though. Like that's how it is when you're in a toxic relationship. It's just like so blinding and like suffocating. And I feel like you just can't think straight.
Yeah, I didn't think straight for a while. And when we were going back and forth, I finally, got back with him. We're trying to work it out. It comes back to around the same time during his season where he likes to do I have to focus on my sport.
Yeah.
So we're still going back and forth with that. And I'm like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, whenever I'm in prime cheer season, football games, basketball games, volleyball games, you want to be with me then when I'm like getting recognition, guys are noticing me, girls are like, I'm being noticed and you don't like it. So you want to be with me. But whenever it's time for you to get noticed, you're like, bye. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So that's what we were going through. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. We were going through that like back and forth, and I didn't like it because I had class with this guy. So when we were fighting, oh my gosh, I would see him in class and he'd just be staring at me. And it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so uncomfortable, like to a point where I just stopped going to class, and it affected me. Really interesting. She's paying for my tuition, and I'm just not going to class for a boy.
Okay. I also want to add that this was a very expensive private school. And she's throwing it away for a boy. But anyways, go on.
Yeah. Anyways.
Let this be your lesson.
Yes, guys.
Learn through Anissa.
I did learn because, honestly, like, I didn't realize how much time and money we put into that school until after. Because I was 18, so I'm like, whatever, like my mom's gonna do whatever, like she's gonna make it happen for me, which I'm very grateful that she did. Not everyone has parents like that where they're able to provide in that sense, and I just took advantage of it and I hate it. Now I live with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was so dumb, like I let this guy control my life. And with this guy, not only did it ruin my friendships to where I felt so alone in college, it ruined my school. It ruined my like college experience. And a lot of people go through this, but in high school. So it's like, I can only imagine like looking back at high school, and then I like the type of like regret and like, like the cringiness that I get from thinking about college. I can only imagine going through that in high school and like feeling that way about your high school years. Cause like those are your prime years.
Yeah.
Or like prime, you can't relive
You can't
that.
get them back.
Yeah. Like you could always get another job. Like if something happens at your job, get another job, move to another state,
and
city.
even with college, like you can always go back to college at any time. Like you can go to college at 80 years old. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. But what I'm saying is that losing your high school years is even worse because you're never going to get those back, because they're not going to let you back into high school to relive that at like 30 years old.
And then so
yeah, no.
It just ruined a lot for me, but coming out of this situation, I learned a lot, and I realized what I want for myself. And I didn't date anyone for a very, very long time. Yeah, I hung out with guys, I went on dates, and I was like, ew, like you're weird. I didn't like that because my eyes were open. Like I saw colors after that relationship. I saw like the rainbow. So whenever I would go with a guy and like,
You saw the red flags.
yeah, I saw all the red flags, very vibrant, very different shades of red.
Yeah.
So it kind of taught me to be okay being alone. Like I was okay with being alone, you know, like you have to learn to love yourself after a very hard relationship like that. Like I got cheated on multiple. I'm sure there's still other girls that I don't even know about, which I don't want to know about because that's the past, whatever. I know what I know now, but I can only imagine the type of like, just, I don't know, like it's a very ugly feeling. And to come out of a relationship like that, you need to have time for yourself. You need to put yourself first. And at that time I had already like stopped going to school. I started doing real estate classes, and I never really caught up with myself. Like in that time, I was never giving myself 100% because I was still so like wrapped up around the way he treated me and like the way that I felt in that moment.
Because it's something that you don't forget.
Yes.
Like you don't forget easily. Like I still find myself struggling with things that happened 25 years ago that were so impactful on my psyche that like I struggle with them still, and I have to be reminded by my current husband, like, hey, like you are not there anymore, you are here. Like
it's because there's just some things that trigger you. It could be the food you
know
eat.
what,
It could be something.
I think it's just like, I really think it changes our brain chemistry when you go through something very traumatic and toxic and like betrayal or things like that. Like I really honestly, I need to look this up to see if there's studies, but I feel like it changes your brain and like you just see the world differently, and it's something that you just can't take back no matter what. It's hard to undo that like that, what do you call it? That trauma. It's like the damage is done. You can't undo the damage unless you really work at undoing the damage, which sucks.
It's like that saying,
like it's up to you to do that.
Have you ever seen that video? I mean, it's not on just TikTok, it's on everywhere. You get a fresh flower, you crush it. Can you undo that flower and make it pretty again? You cannot. But you can try. And I saw that video while I was going through my heartbreak, and I'm like, oh, like I feel that I'm the flower. Like I'm crushed right now, but eventually I'll be a little bit better. I mean, I won't be 100% to where I was before I met this guy and before I got like mentally, like not physically, but like mentally abused, gaslit. Like it was just it was a lot for me to kind of look back on. But I'm very thankful. I mean, I'm not happy that it happened, but I'm very thankful that I'm out of that situation and I'm able to move on. And I'm in a very healthy relationship now thanks to that. Like every heartbreak is closer to you're happy. You're happy. What is it called?
So okay. So there's
Wizards of Waverly Place. Have you seen that video of the mom saying like, just think about it. Every heartbreak will take you closer to your forever.
Oh no.
It's very cute.
No, but I did see this one TikTok where this lady, okay, so I follow this lady, her whole account is about relationships, and she's always talking about like it's like a women empowerment, whatever. So she's always saying like the point of dating is so that you can start learning what it is that you want in another person. So she's like, think about going on the internet and you search for something and it gives you like this big category or this big variety. And then you're like, okay, I need to refine my search. So then you filter it and you filter it and you filter it. And she's like, that's kind of what dating is. Like you go out with a person and you're like, okay, so like, I kind of don't want someone that does this or that, or like, you know, you kind of start understanding and knowing what you want from a person. And then also like, I think you have to know what your standards are. Like you have to know like, okay, if I'm going to give another person a chance, they have to be X, Y, and Z. And if they're not, then I'm not going to waste my time. And like you start having these standards, and then that's kind of how you start, you know, meeting people that match you a little bit more. Because if you don't have standards, you're going to get all the
bad junk.
Yeah, you're going to get everything, and you're going to go through a lot of
and
unnecessary.
it's okay to have standards. Like
you should have standards.
If you go on a date with the guy and he just gives you the ick and you're like, ew, no, like,
or like if he does the bare minimum.
Yes. Like it's okay to step back and say no.
Don't be excited over the bare minimum.
Yeah. Like if he opens the door for you, he should.
Yeah. Like
hello.
Or like, oh, he returned my call.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I called him and he answered.
Yeah. No, but you'd be surprised.
Oh, yeah,
Girls get excited over that. Like, oh my God, he called me back. And it's like, he's supposed to. You're in a relationship, but no. I think that's like a whole other, that's a whole other episode.
And I'm not saying like he has to spoil you and like he has to be.
No, like, but you have to, like, it has to be like equal.
It has to be mutual.
Mutual, yeah. Like, I enjoy talking to him. He enjoys talking to me. He calls me. I call him. Like, it's kind of like a two-way street. It's not just like you waiting around for this person.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that your relationship has to be like perfect. Like, we never argue, because every relationship you're gonna have a little argument. I'm not saying you're gonna like go crazy and like break up.
No, but every relationship is hard no matter what.
Yeah, no
even
matter
the
what.
really good, healthy relationships are difficult. Like, relationships are difficult, period. But if you're both healthy and you're both making an effort to communicate and to be respectful of each other, and you have these rules in your relationship where you're not going to cross certain boundaries, it'll be a lot easier than other relationships. But
yes,
I think that you should not rush into relationships, especially in high school. Like, I know there's a lot of relationships in high school, and some of them are pretty good. Like, I see they seem healthy from the outside anyway, but I think you should not maybe take them to a super deep place. I think like
to where it controls your life.
Yeah, I think high school relationships should be companionship and experiencing high school things together and making the memories, prom and homecoming and all that stuff, but like not taking it to this like super deep place.
I have an opinion or a question.
What?
I want your opinion.
Okay.
When girls or guys move to a certain college for this one person, what do you think of that?
Oh, I think that that's very risky.
Right?
It's very risky because, okay, so
I
in
always think about
college,
that.
well, no, because in college, that's the place that you're going to grow a lot. Like, you're going to be exposed to different people, different cultures, different, environments. And you're risking that person that you're following is going to grow apart from you. And so you got to make sure that if you're going, you're also going to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be, or you're also going to get ready to grow apart and do your own thing, which is perfectly fine. Maybe going to that place is going to kind of open your eyes and make you see that person's not for you. But I'm just saying it's a risk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't work out, because sometimes people do follow each other to college and it ends up being fine. You end up marrying each other. Like, there are those Cinderella stories where like, it's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
But that's not very often.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready just to accept the bad that comes with the good. And like, it is pretty risky. I would say don't follow someone because of them. If you want to go, it's because of you. Like, make your own decisions and like stand in your own self.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well said. I like that.
So
I always had a question on that, like about how you felt. I mean, I
don't know, but I'm also 44 years old. Like, my perception about now is different. But like, if I was an 18-year-old, I'd probably be following someone somewhere. Like,
you'd be that person.
Yes. Like, I'd probably be like, oh my God, it's because I love him. Like, so I'm telling you as a parent. Yeah. I'm telling you as a counselor. I'm telling you as an older person. Like, I think it's risky, but
just because we might have people going to college that like kids have that on their mind, they're like, oh my gosh, like I kind of want to.
Like, just please
think about it.
Think about it.
Yeah. Talk about
we've lived through it.
Parental advision recommended.
I don't know. Or maybe at least just talk to your parents about it and see what they say. But I don't know. It's risky.
But if you are currently in a toxic relationship like how I was, just know that it gets better.
It does get better, but you have to get out.
Yes, you have to get out for it to get better. I'm not saying he's going to change.
No,
Don't flip my words around. I'm not going to say he's going to change.
No, you got to fully get out though.
No contact.
Like, fully get out. Because you have to rip the Band-Aid, because you have to start healing. And the only way you're going to heal is to not be involved in that anymore.
And honestly, when I first got out, I went no contact. Like, it was so hard for me because I was so used to being around this person, whether it was doing me good or bad. Like, it was just like he was there. Yeah. Which I liked. So whenever I finally went no contact, I literally had to, like, this is probably very sad, but I would go on my calendar and write like mark off like, okay, 1 day no contact, 2 days no contact. And once I reached that month, I was like, okay, like
I could do this.
Good. Yeah, like I could do this. And that's when I started to kind of go back to myself, and I would do self-care days. I would do a lot of self-care days. And maybe you just need that. Maybe you just need the alone time to go to the movies by yourself. Saying like, hey, I don't need a guy that's gonna treat me like crap and gaslight me and like do all that.
You can do it alone.
You could do it alone.
Yeah.
So just a little FYI, guys, it always gets better.
And I heard this along the line somewhere. It's not, I don't think it's scientifically proven or anything, but someone once said, don't ask me who because I don't remember, you should spend double the time healing as you were in the relationship. So like if you were in the relationship like 6 months or a year, you should spend at least a year by yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like don't interact socially with people, but just like don't get into anything serious for like a whole year until you can like really get out of that and make sense of it before you move into something else. Yeah. And also because it's not fair to the next person.
Yeah.
For you to go in there with all that baggage and drama and like all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because then it's already going to transpire into something toxic.
And you don't want to drive away the good guy because of the bad guy in your mind. Like if the bad guy's still living rent free in your mind,
get rid of it.
Yeah, you're like, you need to get rid of it. Now you're gonna drive the good guy crazy, and it's like maybe he's a great guy and he's gonna work with you like through it,
and then you're the toxic person.
Yeah, and you're like, but
see, that's how this is how it continues to go.
It could be a chain effect.
Yeah, it's break the cycle,
and then he becomes toxic.
Break the cycle. No, yeah, literally break the cycle, guys.
Yeah.
But anyways, we do have someone that wrote in their story, so we're going to talk about it. Can I have it so that we can read it?
I hope y'all enjoyed my trauma dump, guys. If you need help.
I think at the very least, it's going to help some people to just think about, they might be in the exact same position you are. And like maybe even in high school, because a lot of our listeners are high school kids. And so, you know, maybe someone is going through it in high school. So if you are going through this and you just don't know a way out, like find someone you trust.
Yeah.
Like anybody you trust. It doesn't even have to be a parent or anything. Like just find someone you trust and like talk to someone about it, because they can probably be that first like way out.
And girls or guys, if there's another woman or another guy, do not hit on that guy or girl. Don't be a bully. Like with my instance, like one girl obviously hated me because she knew, and I was just like, well, like, why do you hate me? But the other girl, like, I didn't know about her. She didn't know about me. So it's like at that point, just please don't be mean, because it could be very hurtful. Okay.
So we had someone write in and share their story, and we picked this one because it's pretty interesting. So I'm going to read it.
And it was while she was in high school too. So it could relate to some people.
So it says, I've been in 2 toxic relationships, one when I was 15 and it was horrible. This boy was physically abusive towards me, and so many people knew what I was going through, but I always said I was fine. There were times he treated me great and was an amazing boyfriend, but when he didn't excel in sports, I got the brunt of it. I was in that relationship for almost a year till I finally realized I needed to get out. I had friends support me and get everything I needed to leave. No one in my family was aware of what I was going through until I finally told my mom when I was a senior in high school. She was shocked and had no idea. So from a parent standpoint, like that is really sad, because like when you don't know that your child is suffering like that, because you want to be protective, especially in high school. Like you don't want your child to go through that, because that's going to impact them going into adulthood. Yeah. And so the fact that she went through this, you know, by herself, I mean, her friends knew, but the fact that her family didn't know, she probably had to like live 2 lives, like, you know, to hide it, which is,
I know where I know how she was, because I did that too. And it's very exhausting knowing that you cannot be 100% honest with your family, because if you're someone where your family is your world, it's like, it tears you apart. And I feel like it could drive you a little bit further from your family, which is very sad.
Which is sometimes what the toxic person wants.
They want to isolate you.
They want to isolate you, yeah. And so first of all, I want to say that I'm really sorry that you went through that, because physically being abused, like that is horrible. No one deserves that ever. And it kind of sounds like maybe this person had like some self-worth issues, because if he's not excelling in sports, therefore you get the brunt of it. Like that is something with him and not with you at all.
Especially at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you like that?
Yeah. So, so she was able to get out, which is good. And it was good that you had the support system to like get out. So that's why you have to have a support system, like build a support system. If you don't have one with your family, build one. Like make relationships with people that you trust, even if it's like someone, I don't want to say random, but like a teacher, a counselor, like a coach, like just people that you can talk to that you trust. Okay, where's the next one? Okay. My other relationship took place right as I turned 18. We started dating after a week of knowing each other. It started out pretty normal and I was so in love. I was blind to everything and anything he did. It kind of sounds like all the red flags you ignored, Anissa.
Yeah.
This
like
really
we could be best friends.
The relationship was more abusive mentally than physically. Within the first month of dating him, my friends and family were already seeing red flags. I wasn't allowed to do anything with my friends or family. No going out with friends, no parties. I lost many friends due to this relationship. So I want to stop there because that is red flag. Like that's like the biggest red flag when your family and friends kind of start telling you, or you start losing relationships because of a person. It's time to step back and be like, okay, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to get lost in it. It's like she said, like she was blind to everything. Like she was super in love with him. And like, so right away you get sucked into this like, I don't know,
and for him
vortex of like.
Yeah, for him to say that she can't even hang out with family or friends. Like,
yeah.
family?
That's not healthy at all.
What?
If your boyfriend or even girlfriend, and this whole topic is not even just for girls, like you could have a toxic girlfriend. Like you could be the healthy one trying to get, so it's not just for, it goes both ways. I wasn't allowed to do anything with my friends or family, to going out, no parties. I lost so many friends. It became a pretty big problem with sports. I wasn't allowed to talk to any boys on the team or in classes, let alone sit next to them. I became very depressed, and my normally very goofy personality became not normal. Everyone noticed and asked me to leave him, but I couldn't. I want to emphasize how truly horrible and hard it is to get out of these relationships. It takes a lot out of you mentally. My grades were dropping, and I was not the same person I was before. This horrible relationship continued for almost a year till I finally left him after I found out he was talking to other girls. This horrible cycle then continued with the next girl, and still to this day still comes back to me. It is a horrible thing that I went through, and I would never wish this on anyone. Let me see. Where's the other part?
That's all you sent me. That's all you
Okay, yeah. And then she says, if you need help, ask for it. You are not alone, and it is never your fault. So thank you for sharing this, because you hit it right on the nail. Like, number one, you're not alone. This has been going on since the beginning of time. Like relationship problems have always been around. And no, it is not your fault, because, I think that especially like abusers, they're attracted to a certain person, and maybe that person is really nice, or maybe that person is just hasn't been in the world. Like maybe you are in high school and like you haven't really been exposed to these things. And so they see that and they're like, okay, this is a perfect person because she's not going to question me. She's not going to have the courage to leave me or to say anything to anybody. And you're like the perfect target. And so, yeah, it's not your fault. Like, you are the victim in this. And so, number one, I want to say I'm happy that you're out of that situation. I'm sure that you've learned a lot. But yeah, you are not alone. Like, if you are going through something like this, you are not alone. Like, just know that all of us have probably been there at some point. And if you have never been in a toxic relationship, you are lucky.
Yes.
And like, you are blessed because
take these signs as signs and do not jump into.
Yeah, no, like, you're lucky and you're blessed if you've never been in a toxic relationship, because it is really hard to leave and get out of it.
And to feel like yourself again.
Yeah.
To go back.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to like get to a good place again. I think. And so I'm very happy for this person that decided to share her story, because it's very common, actually. I think that we just don't like to talk about it because we don't want to seem dumb or, you know, whatever it is that we're trying to avoid. But yeah, it is really hard to get out of those situations. So I'm glad you're safe.
Amen.
So many times you hear about girls getting killed by their...
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, look at the statistics.
Yeah.
The high rate of like domestic violence that ends up in like murder or things like that because of controlling violent...
Dateline.
Yeah.
Watch Dateline.
Controlling violent, you know, spouses or partners. But... thank you, Anissa, for sharing your story too.
Of course. I'm only here to educate. if y'all need help or like just advice, we're here to talk as well. Y'all can talk to us. We're like sisters.
You can email us if you want to contact us. We have an email, behindthecameratopics.com, or people follow me on Instagram. You can DM me. I'm still an active counselor. I won't counsel you, but I can connect you with resources. I have a lot of counselor friends and a lot of counselor connections. And so if you really do need help with something, I can get you with the right organization that's going to help you with your situation. So, you know, it'll be anonymous if you want to talk to me or anything like that. Or if you just want me to connect you with someone, like, we can help you there too. But we know it's a very heavy topic, especially if you're in a situation like this. Maybe it hit close to home. So, I hope that you got something out of it, and we might continue this topic another time. But feel free to reach out to us. And please, if you're watching on YouTube, if you could subscribe to our channel and like it. Please. If you're on Spotify, please follow us and like us until we're able to get more subscribers. But we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.